Alright, piss and vinegar day 74, I think. Legs. Just legs. I don't train anything else on leg days. Adding abs or any other... The only thing I train on leg day that isn't a leg is my lower back. But anything else would be severely undertrained or severely lacking intensity after I'm done my leg day, because my leg day is pretty extensive. I do genuine volume training at the start with my deadlifts and squats, and then I do high intensity training on a bunch of different variations for my legs. Legs are also just hard to train, so trying to do abs or something like that at the end of leg day, it's incredibly retarded to do that. But today what I'm doing is 1 rep maxes. I did a 1 rep max on my side pressure on Sunday, and then I'm doing a 1 rep max on my deadlift today. So over the next 2-3 weeks, I'm going to be 1 rep maxing. I won't be maxing out every single session, just to save my central nervous system some, strife. But I'll do 2 maxes a week. And today I was pretty surprised with my deadlift 1 rep max. I've been doing 3 sets of 5 with 155 kilos, and then I thought, okay, we'll probably get like a 170, 180. Nope, I got 195. So that was very surprising, and not necessarily impressive weight at all. I'm just, I'm very I'm very weak in the legs genetically, and my lower back's very weak, so deadlifts and squats are incredibly weak for me, and I've been so inconsistent over the years. But I'm finally going to stay consistent to these squats. I know it for a fact this time. Squats and deadlifts, rather. And hopefully this time next year I'll be deadlifting somewhere in the 260s, 280s. But yeah, decent milestone. I'm back to similar levels to I've been in the past at heavier body weights too. Sorry, still got the cough. The last time I did I think the most I ever did on a deadlift was 260, something like 260 on the trap bar, and that was when I was at 110 kilos. But that was quite a long time ago, and that's when I was really, one, more functional, my body worked better, like back and hips weren't so fucked up, and 2, I was far heavier. But more recently, maybe 3 years ago, when I was about 90 kilos, that was where I was at with my 1 rep max, is about 200 kilos. So I'm just about there whilst weighing about 8 kilos lighter. So I'm happy with that. And I reckon I'll continue increasing that deadlift over this bulk quite a bit. And then hopefully next cut I'll be able to maintain it, or maybe even keep increasing it a little bit. But mainly just trying to maintain it for the 2 to 3 month cut that I'll be doing in about 2 to 3 months from now. And then I'm doing squats. These felt pretty good today. At 117 kilos, I had a bit of a hiccup, and I wasn't able to quite... I don't know, there was one day where I spent 2 weeks on 117 kilos because I just couldn't progressively overload it in 1 week. But now I'm seemingly back to just progressing every single week, because 125 felt pretty light. Well, not pretty light, but it felt like I could definitely then move up next week once the strength boost from this happens. And so yeah, I'm hoping to get to about 140 kilos by the end of this bulk. 140 kilos on the squat at the end of this bulk. About 230, 240 kilos on the deadlift by the end of this bulk. So that's probably 2-3 months from now. But yeah, overall felt pretty good. And I don't do 1 rep maxes on squats because it's unsafe, and I just don't really see the point. They're not a fun 1 rep max, whereas deadlifts are kind of a fun 1 rep max. But next week when I do 1 rep maxes for my back and chest day, I'm going to do a bench press, which I don't actually do in my normal training, but I can't 1 rep max with the dumbbells, because as you might know if you watch the series, I do incline dumbbell presses as my main pressing movement and dips. But I will not be able to do a 1 rep maximum with dumbbells, because 1, I don't have heavy enough dumbbells, and 2, it just doesn't make much sense, because you don't start You start from a dead stop rather than negative. So that's not going to happen. I'll do a bench press instead. And then I'll continue just not doing bench presses for months on end. And then I'll try a bench press 1 rep max at the end of my bulk and see if the dumbbell presses and the dips have allowed me to increase my 1 rep max on my bench regardless of not training it. Obviously, I won't increase it by a hell of a lot because the bench press is a very technical movement. A lot of neurological adaptations are required to get stronger at it. But I'd imagine, let's say my 1 rep max is 110 kilos on the bench press. When I do it next week, I can imagine that by the end of my bulk, it might be more like 130 or something along those lines. Granted, if I actually train the bench press and I trained it with some volume to get more repetitions in, more frequency, yeah, I could probably get more like 140, 150 kilos by the end of the bulk. But I really don't care about the lift that much. It doesn't give me much hypertrophy, and it hurts my shoulders, elbows, wrists, and just generally doesn't feel good in a lot of ways. So I'll be doing the 1 rep max just to ascertain my pressing strength, but I won't be using that movement in my day-to-day training. And now I'm doing my kind of sissy squat, hack squat, belt squat variation I'm doing. Really digging this movement. This is sick for getting a set to failure with squats without my lower back being the lacking component, the weakest link in the chain, and thus not being able to take the legs to failure. A lot of times with squats, people can't take them to failure because one, they're unsafe to take a failure because you kind of just have to drop the bar if you get down and can't get back up, and that's not safe. And two, your lower back will likely be, or your abs will likely be the limiting factor. They will fail before your legs do. So this variation that I've built is really good. It's probably not as good as a hack squat machine or whatever machine that is more functional and easier to set up, but it does the job. It gets the job done. It's really good. Sorry, I'm currently trying to really, every single word is a struggle not to cough, because my lungs are just fucked. Back, I just had a massive coughing fit. I should have another 5 minutes in me of talking without my chest being ticklish. And then I'm doing my split squats to hit my glutes. And on Thursday, I think I'm going to do a shoulder press 1 rep max with the barbell and see where I'm at there. I'd imagine my barbell shoulder press 1 rep max will be somewhere around, who knows, maybe 75, 80 kilos, which would be a genuine 1 rep max of all time for me, because previously my overhead press was always kind of shitty. Like, I used to bench press 160 kilos or 165 kilos for 1 rep max, and at the time my overhead press 1 rep max was only like 75 kilos. I'm pretty certain I could hit 75 for a 1 rep max right now, and I'm almost certain that I can get an 80 kilo overhead press for 1 rep max right now. So don't know what's going on there. I think high intensity, well, aesthetically, from an aesthetic point of view, high intensity has most definitely done wonders for my deltoids. My delts have always been lacking, and until recently, they've actually started becoming more of a strong suit, especially my side delts, but just the delts in general. And I think that's from just doing less volume, less frequency, more intensity, less frequency, has allowed my shoulders to get bigger and stronger. They work hand in hand. But yeah, there could be very well be a component to high intensity where it works better for my shoulder strength. And once I get to a certain standard of strength with my squats and deadlifts, I'll probably start doing high intensity only on the deadlifts and squats. I'll have to figure out a way to make the squats safe to do sets to failure with. It might be a matter of not taking it to absolute mechanical failure, but like one-off failure with a bunch of safety precautions like safety bars, etc. But deadlifts you can definitely take to failure. But right now I have plenty of linear progression to go with those lifts because they're quite weak for my, just in general, they're just weak. They're still in the novice stage, or well, the deadlift isn't, but the squat definitely is. My deadlift is starting to become more intermediate, but yeah, at a certain point, at the end of this bulk, I'll probably then switch just to high intensity And if that takes a huge toll on the strength, then maybe I'll go back to volume for squats and deadlifts. Because I'm not in the squats and deadlifts necessarily for hypertrophy. I'm more doing them because I just want to be strong at them. They're impressive. So for pure hypertrophy, it actually would be superior to just do one set to failure on deadlifts and squats. But I also want them to be stronger, so a bit more volume is required, especially when you're new to the lift or newer to a lift. But again, with my overhead press, it is evident that high intensity has been superior for strength gains. So who's to say that won't be the case for my squats and deadlifts? So we'll see. Hamstring curls, these are not ideal because the resistance curve around about here is very, very poor. Just due to the way the cable is orientated. But the contraction is very good. Ideally, one day I'll get a laying hamstring curl machine, but for now, this will do. I'll have to think of different ways I could potentially increase the resistance curve. I thought potentially making a band, giving band tension around the cable stack, using weight that's too heavy for me ordinarily, but having cable tension that takes some of the weight off the bottom or puts more weight on the bottom rather, and eliminates some of the weight at the top when I'm contracting, and that way it's a little bit more effective. But anyway, I don't know. I'd probably be just better off buying a machine, but I don't have the space. But these are perfectly fine. The contraction is more what I'm looking for anyway, not so much the stretch. You can't really stretch the hamstrings out so much unless you're doing maybe a stiff leg deadlift, which I can't do due to the just immobility through the hamstrings and sacrum and weak lower back. So I don't do stiff leg deadlifts. I don't do RDLs. I do these instead to isolate. And but that's fine. The hamstrings are very important, and I really need to build mine up. But I'm more interested in building massively big quads. The quads are the most important part of the leg. Glutes are important too, but too bigger glutes kind of makes you look a bit gay. So I want humongous quadriceps, decently sized hamstrings and glutes. That's my look. Other people might have a totally different idea. Some people want massive glutes. Some people want huge hamstrings. I don't care so much about those. I more just want huge quads. And now finishing off with some back extensions. And these, I'm having a hard time progressively overloading on these. They're not necessarily getting much stronger. It could be this case that the range of motion is increasing and I am getting stronger. It's just way slower than every other lift. Sometimes progression is a lot more subtle than you think. It's not necessarily just the weight increase. It could be that your form is more controlled. You're getting a better range of motion. It could be numerous things other than just increasing reps and weight. Especially on these lifts where smaller muscle groups are involved. Although the spinal erectors are pretty big, but I do have a very weak lower back, so it makes sense that it is a harder lift to me to progress. Although realistically it shouldn't be, because the weaker you are, typically the quicker you progress, because there's more adaptations to be made. But anyway, my lower back is the bane of my existence, but I'll figure it out eventually. And then I'm just doing the nucleus overload cycle of my training, where I do the trap bar shrugs, not trap bar shrugs, the V-bar shrugs rather, for 100 reps in total. And then I do some pronation to train on my right pronata every single day. And this is kind of a nucleus overload cycle / arm wrestling every day sort of thing, just to increase my ability to pronate, which is very important in arm wrestling. And yeah, man, I really didn't want to do these traps after this leg day today. And I honestly have been skipping these daily nucleus overload days a little bit lately. But part of my vow as of the last few days to be much more focused and intense in my training is to never forget to do these. So over the next, however long this nucleus overload cycle lasts, I will try my utmost to not skip these. And if I forget to do them and then later in the day or even at night I remember to do it, then it's going to be a matter of coming up there and back into the gym and doing it. And granted, today I wasn't as focused as I could have been again on a lot of these leg movements. I just didn't have my head in it. I really need to put my head into the game a lot more Yeah, I'm hitting mechanical failure, but it's not the same as if you get massively focused and think about what you're doing. And it is harder the further you go into the workout to keep that head in the game, even in a high intensity where the workouts are shorter. On a leg day where there's a lot of variations you're doing, and in my case I am doing a bit of volume, by the time I get to the Bulgarian split squats, or even the hack squat machine thing that I do, I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing, I'm just going through the motions. And, it very well could be that makes no difference, or it makes a incredibly small difference, but I don't know that. So what I know is it could potentially make a big difference. Whether it does or not, I don't know. But because I don't know, it's better off acting like it does make a big difference and going for it. It's better to be safe than sorry. So, yeah, need to be more focused. And especially on leg days, because my legs are very lacking. And I was going to do some posing, and then I forgot to do posing for my legs. So again, more focus that I lost here. I was going to do posing, forgot to do that. And, I mean, not that there's much to see. My legs are very, very impressive, especially my left leg, because my left leg is about 1.5 inches smaller than my right leg. It's got a lot of atrophy from sciatica and just, I don't know, there could be so many different things that go into it. Like, obviously, we all have imbalances. One arm's bigger than the other a lot of times. You might have, one side of the abs more aesthetic than the other, etc. But it is to the point with my right and left leg where it's blatant, because it's not just the aesthetic size, it's also it's also the strength. When I do my Bulgarian split squats, my right leg is considerably in more control, more balanced, more powerful, gets more reps, can use more weight. And that attributes to, one, probably my lower back pain, and two, my inability to output a lot of force into my deadlifts and squats. If my right leg is capable of, say, I don't know, I'm doing a deadlift of 200 kilos. Let's say my right leg is capable of deadlifting 130 kilos, but then my left leg can only do like 100. That could limit me all the way down to like a 200 kilo deadlift due to the imbalance. Whereas if both legs were firing at the same rate, two times 130 is 260 kilos. So I feel like a big part of my weakness in my deadlifts and squats is my left leg. And I'm addressing that with the Bulgarian split squats, but I'm also going to start addressing that on my Sunday session. Sorry. Oh my God, fuck. My Sunday rehab session, where I kind of just do weakness training, where I work on areas that are fucked up. And it might not just be weights, it can be mobility or like knees over toes stuff, like sort of more, what's the word? Basically rehabilitation training, right? It's like not intense, although some of it might have intensity to it, like, but yeah, that beside the point. On those days I will be doing some more isolation of the left leg, left glute, try to activate it a bit better. Anyway, see you guys tomorrow for more piss and vinegar. Bye bye.